They used to laugh when I walked past, the wolfless outcast, the omega nobody wanted. But that night under the blood moon, the laughter stopped. The moment my bones cracked and the power of the ancient wolf tore through my veins, every alpha in that room dropped to their knees. Even him, the one who swore I'd never be worthy. My name is Lyra Hale, and this is how the Wolfless became their queen. Chapter 1. The Girl Without a Wolf. The Silver Fang pack prided itself on strength. Every pup was born beneath the full moon, blessed by the spirit of their wolf. Their first shift, a celebration of bloodline and honor, was the heartbeat of the pack's identity. Every pup, except Lyra Hale. She had been born under a moonless sky, her cries weak and human. Her mother's face, they said, had fallen into silence the moment the midwife whispered the words, "She has no wolf." From that night on, Lyra became the pack's quiet shame. Now at 19, she was a servant in her own pack's hall, the daughter of warriors, yet treated worse than the rogues they hunted. The courtyard echoed with the clatter of blades and laughter. The morning air was thick with frost and the scent of pine, but beneath it all lay the stench of dominance, of alphas testing power, of omegas bending their necks to avoid attention. Lyra's hands were red from scrubbing training armor. Her fingers ached, her nails chipped to the quick. The metal burned her skin with cold, but she didn't stop. She had learned long ago that pausing invited cruelty. "Still trying to act like one of us, Wolfless?" sneered Kira, the alpha's sister. Her voice was sweet like honey poured over poison. "You'll never shift no matter how hard you scrub that steel." Lyra didn't look up. "The armor still needs cleaning." Kira tilted her head, her golden braid glinting in the light. "You could always use your teeth." "Oh, wait," she smirked. "You don't have a wolf to bear them." The others laughed. Lyra bit the inside of her cheek until she tasted blood. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her flinch. "Enough." The deep voice cut through the courtyard like thunder rolling over mountains. "Alpha Damien." He strode forward, tall and broad, the morning sun cutting a halo of fire around his dark hair. His black uniform clung to his frame like it had been molded to him, the mark of leadership inked across his neck, the Alpha's sigil. Every warrior straightened. Even Kira fell silent. Lyra kept her gaze low, though her pulse trembled at the sound of his steps approaching. "Is this what my warriors do now?" His tone was low, controlled, dangerous. "Mock a servant?" Kira dropped her eyes. I didn't ask," he snapped. The courtyard fell silent. Only the wind dared to move. Damien's eyes landed on Lyra. They were molten amber, burning with the kind of intensity that made even the strongest look away. She forced herself to stand straighter even though her legs shook. "Why are you still here, Hale?" His voice was quieter now, but it carried something sharper than anger. Disdain. "You should have been gone after the last gathering." "I serve, Alpha," Lyra said softly. "The elders assigned me." He circled her slowly like a predator assessing prey. "You think serving makes you part of this pack?" "I don't think," she whispered. "I just obey." That earned her a small, humorless smile. "Good, because you're not one of us." "You never were," Kira's smirk returned. The other wolves snickered behind their hands. Damien continued, voice deep and cold, meant for everyone to hear. "A wolf without a spirit is like a sword without a blade. Useless. Dangerous only to itself." His words hit like claws to the chest, but Lyra didn't look away. "Then why keep me?" she asked quietly. The courtyard froze. No one spoke to an alpha like that, especially her. Damien's jaw flexed. For a moment something flickered in his eyes, surprise maybe, or interest. Then it vanished. "Because," he said, stepping closer until she could feel his heat, "even a sword without a blade can remind others what weakness looks like." The words sank into her bones like ice. Then he turned away, voice cutting the air. "Clean up and get out of my sight before training begins." He left without another glance. Lyra exhaled slowly, staring at the frost creeping over the flagstones. The laughter returned, softer now, crueler in its restraint. Kira brushed past her, whispering, "You should have been born dead, Wolfless." Lyra didn't reply. She waited until they were gone, then looked up toward the training field. The warriors shifted, their wolves flickering through their eyes as they sparred, their movements precise, beautiful, deadly. She imagined for a moment what it might feel like. The burn of the shift, the rush of the wolf's spirit fusing with her blood. But when she reached inward, there was only silence. Always silence. She turned toward the forest. Beyond the walls lay the wildlands, the forbidden woods where rogues roamed and shadows whispered. It called to her in ways she didn't understand. Sometimes in her dreams she heard something move there, a heartbeat slow and ancient echoing in her veins. That night, as the sun fell behind the mountains, Lyra sat alone at the riverbank. The moon's reflection shimmered across the black water like liquid glass. She dipped her hands in, letting the cold numb her skin. "You should hate them," she murmured to her reflection. "You should leave." But leaving meant death. No wolf, no protection. She would be torn apart by rogues before the dawn. Still, she dreamed of freedom, of the night she would no longer bow. A twig snapped behind her. Lyra turned sharply, her pulse quickening. The scent that hit her made her throat tighten. Smoke and pine, the unmistakable presence of an alpha. Damien. He stepped from the trees, shadows curling around him. His expression was unreadable. "You shouldn't be out here alone." Lyra rose to her feet. "I'm used to being alone." He studied her, his jaw tense. "You provoke me, you disobey orders, and yet you stay." He tilted his head slightly. "Why?" She met his eyes for the first time, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Because running would prove you right." Something flickered in his expression, curiosity, perhaps even respect. Then it vanished as quickly as it came. "You'll regret talking to me like that," he said softly. "Maybe," Lyra replied, her lips curving just barely. "But maybe you'll regret underestimating me." For the first time, Damien didn't have a response. He just watched her, the muscles in his jaw flexing, his wolf stirring restlessly beneath his skin. There was something strange about her tonight, something alive in the air, faint but undeniable. Her scent had changed. It carried a pulse that made his own beast uneasy. He turned away abruptly. "Get back to the pack house now." She waited until he was gone before whispering to the night, "You can't break what's already broken." The forest whispered back, a sound that wasn't quite wind. It was low, rhythmic, almost like a growl from beneath the earth. The river rippled, though no breeze passed over it. For a heartbeat, Lyra could swear she saw silver light flash beneath the water, and somewhere deep in the woods, something ancient stirred. Chapter 2. Blood in the Snow. The storm had rolled in faster than anyone expected. Snow fell in thick, heavy sheets blanketing the Silverfang territory in ghostly silence. The moon hid behind clouds, a pale shadow in the dark sky. Every breath turned to mist, hanging in the air like spirits that refused to move on. Lyra trudged through the forest, clutching the edge of her cloak tight around her shoulders. Her arms ached from hauling sacks of meat for the warriors' hunt. It wasn't her job, but when the Alpha's warriors ordered, she obeyed. She always obeyed. From ahead came the faint sounds of laughter, sharp, cruel, and familiar. She didn't need to see them to know who they were. Kira, and the Alpha's second in command, Rowan. Their scents cut through the frozen air, dominance and arrogance laced with something worse. Lyra froze, lowering her gaze as they approached, their boots crunching in the snow. Kira's smile was honeyed and venomous all at once. "Well, look at that," Kira purred. "The wolfless girl playing fetch. How noble." Lyra's voice was quiet even. "I'm just doing what I was told." Rowan snorted, stepping closer. "Still waiting for your wolf to appear, Hale?" "Maybe it got lost. Or maybe," he said, circling her, "it realized you weren't worth the trouble." Lyra kept her eyes down. "Move, please," but Kira wasn't finished. "You know, sometimes I wonder if you're cursed, born from some dark sin. That would explain why the moon didn't bless you." Lyra's hands clenched. "At least I don't hide behind my brother's power." Kira's eyes narrowed. "What did you say?" Lyra realized her mistake too late. Rowan's hand shot out, striking her across the face. The world spun. She hit the ground hard, the cold biting through her cloak like knives. Kira crouched down beside her, voice low. "You'd better remember your place, Wolfless. Without this pack, you're nothing." And with that, they left her in the snow. Lyra pressed a trembling hand to her cheek, feeling the heat of blood against her cold skin. She stared after them until their figures vanished between the trees. Then she exhaled shakily and began to gather the spilled meat. But something felt wrong. The air was different, heavier. The forest had gone silent. No birds, no wind, only the sound of her own breathing. A low growl rolled through the trees. Her pulse jumped. She turned slowly. Two golden eyes blinked from the shadows, wide, wild, and full of hunger. A rogue wolf. It stepped out, fur matted with frost and blood. Its ribs jutted through its skin, its mouth dripping red. The scent hit her in death and decay. Lyra stumbled back. "Easy," she whispered. "I don't want to hurt you." It snarled. "You can't hurt anything," a dark voice inside her hissed. "You're weak. You're prey." The rogue lunged. Lyra barely had time to dive aside. Claws ripped through her cloak, slicing skin. She screamed, rolling onto the frozen ground. Snow turned crimson beneath her. She tried to crawl, but pain burned down her side. The wolf circled her, growling, saliva stringing from its jaws. "Help!" she cried out, voice echoing through the forest. "Somebody please." But no one came. The pack was miles away. The wolf lunged again. She raised her arms in vain. Its weight crushed her to the ground. Claws dug into her shoulders. Hot breath at her throat. Then something snapped. Not in the world around her. Inside her. A pulse tore through her chest, violent and wild. Her blood turned molten, her vision going white. Somewhere far away, she heard her own scream twist into a sound she didn't recognize. And then she heard it. A voice. Ancient, female, powerful enough to shake the air itself. "Do you want to live, little one?" Lyra gasped. "Well, who are you? Answer me." The rogue's teeth tore into her shoulder. Pain shot through every nerve. She choked on blood, the snow burning beneath her. Yes," she screamed. "I want to live." "Then remember this night. Remember your death." The ground beneath her pulsed with light. Silver, pure, blinding. The rogue staggered back, whimpering, but Lyra didn't see it. Her bones cracked, her body twisting in impossible ways. Fire surged through her spine as her scream broke into a snarl. "You are mine, Lyra Hale," the voice whispered, now inside her skull. "And I am Fenra, the first wolf." The world exploded in sound. Fur burst through her skin. Her vision sharpened until she could see every snowflake falling in slow motion. The rogue lunged again, but this time Lyra met it midair. Her jaws closed around its throat. The sound was wet and final. When it went still, she dropped it to the ground, panting, her breath steaming in the cold night. The snow beneath her paws was stained with crimson. The scent of blood and fear filled her lungs, and for the first time she felt alive. But the feeling was wrong. Terrifying, exhilarating. The forest trembled around her. Her reflection in the frozen stream stared back. A wolf unlike any she had ever seen. Black fur streaked with crimson. Eyes glowing silver like twin moons. "What am I?" she thought. More than them, Fenra's voice echoed through her mind. More than any alpha who ever walked this earth. You were born wolfless because your wolf was too old. Too strong to wake before its time. Lyra took a step back, heart hammering. Her claws sank into the ice. "Why now?" she whispered aloud. "Because your blood was spilled and the moon has chosen. The pack will bow or they will burn." Before she could answer, another scent hit her, one she knew too well. Damien. His boots crunched over the snow as he stepped into the clearing, his eyes locking onto her wolf form. His breath caught, and for a long moment he didn't move. "Lyra," he whispered. Her wolf bared its teeth instinctively, torn between fury and fear. Damien's wolf pushed at the edge of his control, his voice rough. You were wolfless." Lyra's eyes flashed silver. She took a step closer, and he felt the pressure of her power like a storm pressing against his chest. The air around them vibrated. His knees threatened to buckle. His wolf whimpered inside him, submission. Damien's eyes widened. She's stronger than me." Her wolf tilted its head, then turned and vanished into the woods, leaving him standing there, breathless, shaken to his core. He stared after her, heart pounding. "What have you become?" he whispered, from the darkness. Her voice, layered with Fenra's, whispered back on the wind. "Something you were never meant to control." And with that, the snow swallowed her trail, the blood moon breaking through the clouds, painting the forest in red light. Lyra didn't return to the pack that night. Somewhere deep in the wildlands, Beneath the skeletal trees, she curled beside the corpse of the rogue she'd slain. The moonlight fell over her new form, and her body trembled between exhaustion and hunger. Inside her mind, Fenra's voice purred softly. "Sleep now, little wolf. Tomorrow the world will know who you truly are." Lyra's silver eyes flickered open one last time before darkness claimed her. For the first time in her life. She wasn't afraid of the night, she was the night. Chapter 3. The Awakening. When dawn came, the forest looked nothing like it had the night before. The storm had cleared, leaving behind a wasteland of white and silence. Every tree dripped with diamonds of frost, every sound swallowed by snow. The only sign that anything had lived or died was the crimson trail that led from the clearing to the frozen river. Lyra woke there, naked and shivering beneath the trees. The world smelled sharper, louder, alive. She could hear the river breathing, could feel the pulse of every creature moving miles away. Her body trembled, not from cold but from the overwhelming awareness coursing through her. Her reflection stared back from the water. Her skin was marked with faint streaks of silver where fur had been. Her eyes glowed faintly even in daylight. She touched her shoulder where the rogue's teeth had pierced. Not even a scar, it wasn't a dream. "You finally see," a voice murmured in her mind. "You are the blood of the first moon. The others will kneel or perish, Fenra," Lyra whispered. "What are you?" "What you've always been. What they feared you would become." Before she could ask more, the howl of the morning patrol cut through the valley. The pack. They had found the rogue's body and her scent all over it. Panic clutched her chest. She pulled on the torn remnants of her cloak and stumbled toward the pack borders. Each step hurt less than the thought of what awaited her. By the time she reached Silverfang Hall, the sun had risen high, washing the world in blinding light. Warriors filled the courtyard, murmuring, shifting restlessly. The rogue's corpse lay in the center, a mangled heap of fur and blood. Damien stood beside it, arms folded, jaw set hard. His usually calm eyes burned with something unreadable. Around him, the elders whispered like a swarm of crows. When Lyra appeared at the gate, the whispers stopped. "Gods," someone breathed. "She's alive." Her bare feet sank into the snow as she walked forward. Her cloak clung to her shoulders, soaked and torn. Every eye followed her, fearful, disbelieving. She felt their stares as knives. Kira's voice broke the silence. You were supposed to be dead." Lyra's gaze met hers. "I got better." The air rippled. The warriors shifted uncomfortably. Even the snow seemed to hum under her voice. She didn't mean for it to happen, but the power inside her wasn't easily caged. Damien stepped forward. "Stop." His tone was command, but softer than usual. "Where did you go last night?" "I didn't go anywhere," Lyra said. "You left me there." He flinched almost imperceptibly. "We found blood, a rogue. Tell me the truth, Lyra. How did you survive?" Her lips curved, not quite a smile. "Would you believe me if I told you I killed it?" Laughter erupted among the warriors. Kira barked, "You? Kill a rogue? Without a wolf? You couldn't even fight a pup." But Damien didn't laugh. His gaze never left Lyra. The scent around her was wrong. New, ancient, electric. His wolf stirred inside him, uneasy. "What happened to your eyes?" he asked quietly. Lyra blinked. "My eyes? They're glowing." She turned toward the nearest piece of metal, a discarded blade glinting in snow. The reflection staring back had silver irises, pale as starlight. She gasped, stumbling back, murmurs spread. "Witchcraft. Possessed. She's cursed." Damien raised his hand for silence, but Lyra's voice cut through first, steady and sharp. "I'm not cursed. I'm awake." The ground shuddered faintly beneath her words, snow lifting like breath. The pack fell still. Even Damien felt it, the strange pull that made his wolf lower its head. Submission. To her. For a heartbeat, their eyes met. Alpha and girl. Power twisted between them, wild and magnetic. Kira stepped forward, breaking the tension. "She's dangerous, brother. Whatever she is, we should lock her up before..." Before she could finish, Lyra's head tilted slightly and the faintest growl rumbled from her throat. Not human, not entirely wolf either. Kira's knees buckled. She dropped into the snow, gasping, eyes wide with terror. Gasps rippled through the courtyard. Lyra looked down at her own trembling hands. She hadn't meant to do that. The energy had surged out on instinct. Raw, protective, ancient. Damien moved closer, voice low. "Enough, you're scaring them." They have scared me my whole life, she replied. Now they know how it feels. The silver light in her eyes dimmed and the air eased. Kira scrambled away, pale and shaking. Damien stopped an arm's length away. The scent of pine and storm surrounded him. You need to explain what you are, he said, trying to sound in control. But his wolf whispered otherwise and urged to bow to yield. Lyra held his gaze. You told me once that a wolf without a spirit is worthless, he swallowed. I remember. Then tell me, Alpha, she said softly, stepping closer until her breath brushed his jaw. What am I now? The world seemed to hold its breath. His pupils dilated. His heartbeat thundered loud enough for her to hear. Every instinct screamed to assert dominance, but his wolf whimpered instead. He dropped his eyes. Just for a second, and that second was enough. Gasps rose from the watching pack, their alpha bowing even slightly to the wolfless girl. Damien straightened quickly, fury and confusion flashing through him. Leave, now, before I decide what to do with you. Lyra studied him, then turned toward the gate. You already decided, Damien. Your wolf decided for you. She walked away without waiting for permission. The crowd parted in silence, some whispering prayers, others curses. No one dared touch her. Inside the Alpha's chamber, Damien poured himself a glass of whiskey, hands trembling. The liquid sloshed amber as firelight. Rowan stood nearby, hesitant to speak. She shouldn't exist, Rowan muttered. No one gains a wolf after 19. It's impossible. Damien stared into the glass. And yet she stood before me, and every instinct I have bent. What will you do? Damien's jaw tightened. Find out what she's become. Before it destroys us. But as he looked out the window, he saw her in the courtyard below, standing beneath the bare trees, snowflakes falling into her dark hair, silver eyes staring up at the moon that shouldn't have been visible in daylight. And for the first time in his life, Alpha Damien felt something unfamiliar. Not anger, not dominance. Fear. Lyra didn't sleep that night. She stood in her small room beneath the pack house, tracing the veins of moonlight spilling across the floor. Fenra's voice purred inside her like a heartbeat. He will fight you. They all will. I'm not afraid anymore, Lyra whispered. Good. Because power never asks for permission. It only waits to be taken. Lyra closed her eyes, feeling the pulse of the moon through her veins. For the first time, she didn't feel small. She felt infinite. And somewhere above her in the Alpha's chamber, Damien dreamt of silver eyes in the dark, and the sound of his wolf whispering the unthinkable. She's our mate. Chapter 4. The Alpha's Challenge. The moon hung low and molten over the training grounds, its light spilling across the black stone like liquid silver. The pack had gathered in silence, forming a wide circle around the clearing. Every whisper died the moment Lyra stepped into the light. Her bare feet touched the cold earth. The air itself seemed to hush for her. Damien stood at the far end, arms folded, face carved in cold defiance. His presence radiated dominance, the kind that made most wolves drop their gaze without question. But when Lyra's eyes met his, something primal rippled through the air. The invisible bond shimmered between them like a current waiting to strike. Still think you can stand among Alpha's wolfless girl? His voice was a blade, sharp, deliberate. Lyra didn't flinch. I don't need a wolf to make you kneel, Alpha. The crowd stirred. Some gasped. Some smirked, waiting for her to be crushed. Damien's jaw flexed, the muscle in his cheek ticking. You think your awakening makes you untouchable? He stepped closer, slow and predatory until his shadow spilled over her. You're still nothing compared to me. Her pulse quickened, but she met his gaze head-on. The new power within her whispered like dark silk through her veins. It wasn't just strength, it was knowing. Every heartbeat around her echoed in her mind. Every flicker of dominance bent slightly toward her presence. Even Damien's aura, fierce and oppressive, faltered for half a breath as she lifted her chin. Then prove it, she said softly. Or are you afraid of what you'll find if you try? The air trembled, a growl rumbled from his chest, low, dangerous, intoxicating. Careful, he warned. You don't know what line you're crossing. I know exactly what I'm doing. Damien lunged forward, not to strike but to test. His hand shot up, gripping her chin, forcing her to look up at him. The touch burned, his scent, cedar and storm, filling her senses. For a heartbeat, the world shrank to the space between them. You think you can challenge me? He hissed, her lips curved in the ghost of a smile. I already am. That smile shattered something in him. For the first time, Damien felt the ground tilt, his control slipping. His wolf clawed beneath his skin, not from anger but from something far more dangerous, the pull toward her. It was magnetic, brutal, ancient. Every instinct screamed to dominate, but another, older, deeper, urged him to surrender. Lyra felt it too. The bond flared, a searing tether between their hearts. She stepped forward until their breaths mingled, until his grip faltered. You feel it, don't you? She whispered. The bond doesn't care who you are. It only knows what belongs to it. His eyes darkened. You think I belong to you? Her voice dropped, a quiet storm. No, I think we belong to each other. And that terrifies you. Gasps rippled through the onlookers as the tension thickened. An unseen struggle of wills. Shadows coiled around Lyra's feet like mist drawn to her pulse. The moonlight caught her eyes, making them glow faintly silver. Damien's breath hitched as the energy between them surged, wild and ancient. He tried to push back, to summon his dominance, but the harder he fought, the more the bond punished him. His wolf whimpered deep inside, a sound no alpha should ever make. Lyra didn't attack. She simply stood there, letting her presence press against his. Calm, steady, unyielding, and he lowered his gaze. It was only for a second, but the entire pack saw it. The unthinkable. The alpha of Blackridge had bowed his head first. The circle erupted in shocked murmurs. Damien realized what he'd done and stepped back abruptly, fury and confusion burning in his eyes. Enough, he roared, his voice cracking like thunder. Lyra didn't move. You can deny it all you want, Damien, she said quietly. But fate doesn't ask for permission. The moonlight dimmed as a cloud drifted overhead, cloaking the clearing in shadow. The air between them still pulsed with raw energy, both of them breathing hard, both fighting an invisible war neither could win. Damien's voice came out rough, almost broken. You don't understand what this means, what it'll cost you. Lyra's gaze softened just slightly. Maybe not, but I'm done letting others define what I'm worth. For the first time he saw her not as the wolfless girl he'd ignored, but as something powerful, something that could undo him with a single look. He wanted to hate her. He wanted to own her. But most of all, he wanted her near. The pack's murmurs faded as Lyra turned and walked past him. Every head bowed as she passed. Even those who had mocked her now stepped aside. When she reached the edge of the circle, she paused, speaking without turning back. Challenge me again if you must, Alpha. But next time, I won't just make you bow. Then she disappeared into the forest shadows, her gown catching the moonlight like a ghost. Damien stood frozen, every muscle tense, his breath shallow. The ground beneath him still hummed with her power. His wolf howled in his mind, not in defiance but in longing. She's mine, it whispered. Damien's hands clenched. No, he growled to himself. She's a threat. But even as he said it, his heartbeat betrayed him. The scent of her lingered in the air, wild jasmine and rain. And for the first time in years, the alpha of Blackridge realized he wasn't the one in control. Chapter 5. The mark of the moon. The forest was alive in a way it had never been before. Lyra moved through its moon-drenched silence, every step echoing softly against the wet earth. The air shimmered faintly around her, charged with a strange electricity. Each breath she drew was heavy with the scent of moss and rain. The forest felt as though it was watching her, listening. She reached a clearing where the river cut through the trees like a ribbon of glass. The moon's reflection wavered on its surface, pale and endless. When she knelt to drink, her own reflection stared back, unfamiliar. Her eyes shimmered silver beneath the waterlight, and when she touched her collarbone, she felt heat pulsing there. A symbol flared against her skin, a crescent moon wrapped around a wolf's fang. It glowed faintly, as if the moon itself had branded her. Lyra drew in a sharp breath. What's happening to me? You're awakening, said a voice behind her. She whirled. A figure emerged from the trees, cloaked in tattered robes the color of smoke. The woman beneath was old, her face lined, her eyes burning with an unnatural calm. Who are you? Lyra demanded. The woman stepped forward, her presence quiet yet commanding. A seer of your mother's bloodline. I was sent to watch over what would be lost. Lyra's heart lurched. My mother's bloodline? The seer nodded. She carried the Luna's mark before you. She knew one day it would pass to her child, and that the pack would fear it. Lyra's throat tightened. Fear it? They called me cursed. Wolfless. That's why they did, the seer said softly. Your wolf was never gone. It was bound to protect the others, to protect you. The elders feared the moon touched. They feared what you would become if the seal ever broke. Lyra shook her head. This is madness. Then how do you explain the alpha bowing before you? The words struck like thunder. The memory of Damien's lowered gaze flashed in her mind. The shock in his eyes, the heat of his hand on her skin. She could still feel him somewhere deep within her, his heartbeat thrumming faintly in her chest like an echo. He tried to fight it, she whispered. The seer smiled faintly, and failed. No alpha can resist the one chosen by the moon. You are not a wolf among wolves, Lyra. You are their equal, their balance, and if you will it, their end. A wind stirred through the clearing, carrying the scent of storm and wild roses. Lyra's pulse raced. And if I refuse it? If I don't want to be their Luna? The seer's eyes dimmed with sorrow. Then the bond will tear you apart. The moon does not choose without purpose. Deny it and it will devour you both. A shiver ran through Lyra. Both? The Alpha and the Luna are bound as halves of one will, the seer murmured. He carries the fang, you the crescent. Together you shape the tide of power. Apart, you destroy it. Lyra's hands clenched at her sides. Then I'll master it before it masters me. The seer gave a single approving nod. Then listen, child of the lost moon. Listen to the silence between your heartbeats. Lyra closed her eyes. At once the world dropped away. Darkness folded around her, soft and endless. She could hear whispers, ancient voices murmuring in a language she didn't know but somehow understood. Images flared behind her eyes. A silver wolf standing beneath a blood-red sky. A woman crowned in light, a chain of stars breaking apart. Then, a voice. My child. Awaken. Light exploded through her chest. Lyra gasped and stumbled forward. Gripping the earth as power poured through her veins like molten fire. Her mark burned bright enough to blind. The river turned to liquid silver. The forest bent toward her, trembling. The seer fell to her knees. The Luna spirit lives. Lyra stood slowly, her breath ragged. Her skin glowed faintly, veins humming with light. For a heartbeat, she could hear everything. The flutter of an owl's wing miles away. The heartbeat of a sleeping deer. The restless howls of wolves in their dens. And beneath it all, him, Damien. His heartbeat was a drumbeat in her mind, steady and fierce. His emotions bled faintly through the bond, confusion, rage, desire, fear. She touched her mark and whispered to the air, You can run from this all you want, Alpha, but fate already knows your name. The seer spoke again, her voice trembling. You are the moon's chosen, the first in centuries, but beware, the moon blesses as it curses. Power demands balance and love demands pain. Lyra looked down at her hands, light fading slowly from her skin. Then let it come. I'm done being afraid. As she turned toward the forest path, the seer called after her. He will come for you soon. The bond will draw him here, and when it does, the choice you make will decide both your fates. Lyra didn't answer. The wind lifted her hair, carrying the faint glow of her mark into the night. Miles away, the Alpha of Blackridge stood before the great fire, his hands clenched at his sides. Damien's breathing was uneven. The flames twisted and roared as if mirroring the storm in him. He could feel her. Every beat of her heart, every breath she took, it echoed inside him. His wolf growled low, restless, pushing against the surface. She's awakened, he muttered. A soldier stepped forward cautiously. Alpha, what does that mean? Damien's jaw tightened. It means the world we knew is ending. He turned sharply, glass crunching beneath his boots. She carries the Luna mark. If the stories are true, her power can command any Alpha. Another voice spoke from the shadows, his beta, Torin. Then we destroy her before she destroys us. Damien's eyes snapped up, burning. Destroy her? He hesitated, the word catching in his throat. The thought of it made his chest ache, his wolf snarl. Torin studied him carefully. You hesitate, my lord. I feel her, Damien whispered almost to himself. The bond, it's alive. She's inside me. If I hurt her, I'd be cutting out my own heart. Torin's gaze darkened. Then what will you do? Damien looked toward the window, where the moon hung full and cold. Find her, before she learns what she can truly command. As he turned, the fire flared violently, the light catching his eyes, half shadow, half silver. For one breathless moment, even the Alpha looked haunted by something greater than himself. And somewhere deep in the forest, Lyra felt it too, the pull tightening, the distance shrinking. The bond had awoken, and neither of them would ever be free again. Chapter 6. Bound by blood and moonlight. The night breathed around her. Lyra stood in the clearing where the seer had left her, the moon pouring silver fire over her skin. The mark on her collarbone pulsed with the rhythm of her heart. Each beat sent a faint shimmer through the air, stirring the leaves at her feet. "You are the Luna's heir," the seer had said. But power was never given freely. It had to be claimed. She raised her hands and closed her eyes. The forest's sounds grew sharper, the rustle of fur and distant undergrowth, the whisper of sap through bark, the thunder of blood in her own veins. When she drew a breath, the forest breathed with her. A tremor of light spread from her palms, thin and uncertain. It bent the grass, rippled the air, then flickered out. Again. She centered her mind, calling the pulse that now lived inside her. The second surge was stronger, liquid and luminous. For an instant she felt it push against something unseen, an ancient veil separating her from every wolf within miles. The veil quivered, then cracked. Pain lanced behind her eyes. The world snapped open. Lyra staggered, gripping a tree for balance, and heard them. Dozens of minds, wild and whispering, brushed against hers. The pack. Their thoughts swarmed like a storm of wings, confusion and curiosity laced with fear. She could feel every heartbeat, every instinct. And at the center of them all, one pulse beat louder than the rest. Damien. It throbbed through the bond, steady, fierce, aching. She saw flashes through his eyes, moonlight flashing off wet branches, the glint of his dagger, the restless twitch of his wolf beneath his skin. He was coming for her. Her own heart answered, a deep ache blooming under her ribs. The pull was unbearable. Half of her wanted to run. The other half wanted to let him find her. "You cannot master what you refuse to face," whispered the memory of the seer's voice. Lyra straightened, breath shaking. Then let him come. Miles away, Damien's boots pounded over the forest floor. The scent of her, wild jasmine and storm rain, filled every breath, driving him forward faster. The bond had become a noose around his throat. Each mile tightened it. He'd told himself he was hunting her to protect his pack, to stop whatever force had awakened inside her before it consumed them all. But the truth clawed deeper. He wasn't hunting her to destroy her. He was hunting her because he couldn't stand the distance. Every step brought her heartbeat louder in his mind. "She's mine." His wolf's voice was raw, guttural. "No," Damien hissed through clenched teeth. "She's the Luna's curse." But even as he said it, he broke into a run. Branches tore at his clothes, the forest itself resisting him. The air thickened, humming with strange power. When he burst into the clearing, the world seemed to stop. Lyra stood in the center, her hair a dark river over her shoulders, eyes glowing like twin moons. The mark on her skin burned white, throwing soft light across the trees. He froze. "You shouldn't have come," she said, voice low, almost sorrowful. He stepped closer, muscles taut. "You called me here." Lyra shook her head. "The bond did." "The bond," he repeated, bitter. "The same curse that's driving me insane." He stopped a few feet from her. The air between them buzzed like a struck chord. "What have you done, Lyra?" "I'm learning what you and your council tried to bury," she replied. "You can't stop it anymore, can't I?" His eyes flashed silver, his wolf rising beneath his skin. "If you think I'll bow again, then don't." She took one slow step toward him. "But look me in the eye and tell me you don't feel it." He tried. Gods, he tried. But when their gazes met, the world narrowed to nothing but her heartbeat and his. The air thickened with heat. The mark on her chest flared. A mirror mark burned faintly through his shirt, answering it. Lyra reached out, hesitant, defiant, and laid a hand against his chest. His breath stuttered. The bond roared to life between them. A surge of silver light spilling through the clearing. For one wild moment they were connected, mind to mind, heart to heart, no secrets left to hide. She saw his fear, his buried guilt, the loneliness that ruled him more completely than any throne. He saw her pain, her hunger for freedom, The fire she tried so hard to control. Then the power snapped. Both staggered back, gasping. Damien's voice was rough. "You're going to tear us apart." "Maybe that's what the moon wants," Lyra whispered. He stepped forward again, slower this time, eyes dark and uncertain. "You're not the same girl I left to the pack's cruelty." "No," she said. "And you're not the Alpha I once feared." Something flickered between them, something fragile and dangerous. His hand lifted as if of its own will, brushing a strand of hair from her face. For a heartbeat, neither moved. The bond hummed low, soft, like a lullaby meant for two broken souls. The forest seemed to lean closer. "I should hate you," he said quietly. "Then why don't you?" His jaw tightened, but his hand stayed where it was, fingertips grazing her skin. "Because every time I look at you, my wolf kneels." The words trembled in the air between them. Lyra's breath caught. "And what about you?" He met her gaze, voice a whisper. "I don't know anymore." For a long moment they simply stood there, two forces held together by fate and torn apart by everything else. The bond pulsed once more, softer now, as if even it was waiting for their choice. Lyra stepped back first, breaking the spell. "If you want to control me, you'll have to break the bond. But to do that," she looked at the moon, eyes glinting, "you'd have to break yourself." Damien's throat worked, but no words came. The mark on his chest throbbed painfully, echoing hers. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, resigned. "Then maybe I'll learn what it's like to be broken." Lyra turned away, her cloak catching the light as she vanished into the trees. The scent of jasmine lingered. Damien stood motionless, staring at the empty clearing, until the fire in the sky began to pale. He hadn't realized, until that moment, how quiet the world had become. How much of him she had already taken, without even trying. The bond pulsed one last time before fading into silence, leaving behind only the echo of her voice in his mind. "You can't cage the moon." Alpha Damien bowed his head. For the first time in his life, the Alpha of Blackridge whispered to the wind, "Then may the moon have mercy on us both." Chapter 7. The Alpha's surrender dawn spilled across the forest like liquid fire, soft and cold all at once. Lyra sat on a moss-covered stone near the river, her fingers trailing through the water that shimmered faintly under the rising sun. The forest felt different now, awake, listening. Ever since the moon's mark had flared, she could sense everything breathing with her. Every leaf, every creature, every heartbeat. But one heartbeat thundered louder than all the rest, Damien's. Even from a distance she felt him, the pull, the warmth, the storm. It was maddening. He haunted her like the echo of a song that refused to fade. She clenched her jaw. "You will not own me," she whispered to the current. But the mark on her skin pulsed in quiet defiance. A few miles away, Damien stared into the dying embers of a campfire. His pack was restless, uneasy since the night he had vanished into the woods and returned wordless, eyes shadowed. They didn't know what had happened, only that something in their Alpha had changed. He hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her standing in that clearing, bathed in moonlight, her power answering his. It should have terrified him. Instead, it made something deep inside him bow. The bond was no longer a whisper. It was a command. He rose, ran a hand through his dark hair, and muttered, "Enough." He could not lead his pack with his soul split in two. One half ruled, the other burned for her. He had to face it, face her, or lose himself entirely. The forest opened before him as he walked. Birds scattered from branches. The air itself seemed to know his intent. When he reached the riverbank, she was already there. Lyra didn't turn when she heard him. "I felt you coming," she said quietly. His boots crushed the frost-bitten grass as he stopped a few steps behind her. "I didn't hide it." A long silence stretched between them. The river murmured softly, carrying fragments of light across the stones. Finally, she rose and faced him. For a moment, neither spoke. The morning sun caught her eyes, turning them molten amber. Damien's chest tightened. She looked stronger than before. Calm, radiant, untouchable. "You're afraid of me," she said. He almost laughed. "I'm afraid of what I'll do to you." Lyra tilted her head. "You already did enough." Her words cut, but she didn't speak them with hatred, not only truth. He took a step closer, his expression unreadable. "I told myself I'd never bow to the moon again. he said, voice low. Not after what she took from me. And yet, his gaze dropped to the mark glowing faintly through her gown. Every time you breathe, I feel her calling through you. Lyra's heart raced. You think I wanted this bond? To be tied to the alpha who let them torment me? Damien flinched. The truth burned deeper than any wound. No, you didn't deserve that. You never did. Then why didn't you stop it? Her voice shook. Not from fear, but anger she'd buried for too long. You stood there while they broke me. He met her eyes, guilt raw in his expression. Because I thought breaking you would keep you alive. The council wanted you dead, Lyra. A wolfless girl with the Luna's mark? They called you a curse. I could only protect you by pretending you meant nothing. Her breath caught. She had imagined every reason for his cruelty, but not that. So you hurt me to save me? She whispered. That's what you tell yourself? He stepped forward close enough that his breath brushed her skin. No, he said softly. It's what I regret every night since. The words slipped between them like smoke, dangerous, impossible to ignore. Lyra tried to look away, but the bond tugged harder. Her pulse quickened as he reached out, hesitating only a heartbeat before his fingers brushed the edge of her sleeve. The contact was small, but it set the world alight. Sparks danced across her skin. The mark on her collarbone flared in answer, glowing brighter than before. Her power rippled through the air, not wild this time, but gentle, wrapping around them both like a soft wind. Damien inhaled sharply. It recognizes me. No, she whispered, eyes glowing faintly. It recognizes us. The moment held, unfragile, dangerous, infinite. He wanted to pull away, but his body no longer listened. The bond hummed between them, slow and deep like a heartbeat. He could feel her thoughts brush against his. Fear, defiance, something dangerously close to longing. Lyra looked up at him, her voice trembling but steady. If the moon bound us, Damien, there has to be a reason. There's no reason strong enough to make me deserve you. She smiled faintly. Maybe she doesn't care what we deserve. Their gazes locked again and the world tilted. The river's song faded. The wind stilled. There was only the heat between them, and the pull neither could fight. Damien's hand rose to her cheek. She didn't flinch this time. The bond surged, light spilling between their fingers, wrapping them in silver. It wasn't gentle now. It was alive. Lyra gasped, and he caught her by the waist as her knees gave out. The light pulsed through both of them, leaving behind a trail of warmth that reached deeper than touch. When it faded, they were still holding each other. Her head rested against his chest, the rhythm of his heart steady beneath her ear. For the first time, he didn't feel like the monster the council called him. For the first time, she didn't feel like the broken girl they mocked. They were something new, something dangerous. Damien's voice broke the silence, rough and quiet. If the council finds out about this bond, they'll come for you. Lyra looked up, defiance in her gaze. Let them come. He stared at her, then laughed, a low, bitter sound. You sound like an alpha. Maybe I am. He reached out, brushing his thumb along her jaw. Then the world has no idea what's coming. The bond pulsed again, a soft thrum, like a promise neither could name. The forest whispered around them, and for a fleeting moment the alpha and the wolfless girl stood as equals, shadows of destiny curling like smoke at their feet. They both knew it wouldn't last. Power never let lovers rest for long. But for now, beneath the pale dawn, they let the world wait. Chapter 8. The Council's Shadow. The moon had not yet risen, but its power whispered through the clouds. Blackridge Castle stood against the dying sky like a beast carved from stone, its towers spearing the heavens. The torches along the walls flickered in the restless wind. Inside, the great hall was silent, too silent. The council had gathered. 12 alphas from neighboring packs sat in a half-circle, their faces half hidden by the gloom. Cloaked in furs and suspicion, they looked less like men and more like predators waiting for a kill. At the center stood Damien. He had shed his battle leathers for his alpha mantle, the black one lined with silver thread marking his bloodline's ancient rule. His gaze was steady, but inside the storm raged. He could still feel her. Lyra, every heartbeat, every breath echoed faintly through the bond. He forced the connection to dull, but it refused to die completely, like a flame that refused to be smothered. Alpha Corvin, the eldest of the council, spoke first. His voice was gravel, You vanished for 2 nights, Damien. Without warning. Without order. Then the forest itself trembled. Murmurs rippled through the circle. Damien met Corvin's eyes. I was handling a matter that concerns only my pack. Corvin's lip curled. The forest doesn't shake for private matters. The moon flared white over your lands. We all saw it. Damien's jaw tightened. Then you saw the goddess watching over us. A bitter laugh echoed from the shadows. Or cursing you, said another alpha. A broad, scarred man named Roderick. Rumors speak of a girl, Wolfless, marked. Do you deny she walks among your kind? Silence fell. Damien didn't answer immediately. Every instinct told him to lie, to protect her. But lies around wolves never held long. She's under my protection, he said finally, and she is not to be harmed. Gasps, low growls. Someone slammed a hand against the table. Corvin leaned forward, eyes gleaming. You defy the decree? The last Luna's heir was forbidden to live. Her blood brings ruin. You would shelter her in your pack? Damien's power flared, his voice low and dangerous. I would rather face ruin than watch innocence burned for your fear. The room crackled with tension. The council exchanged glances. Ancient hatred gleamed behind their eyes. Corvin's smile was cold. You sound like your father before he felt a madness. Do you forget how he ended? Damien stepped forward, voice a growl. Do you forget who replaced him? The air thickened with raw dominance. Shadows trembled on the stone walls. The council backed off, but only slightly. The challenge had been made. Corvin's tone turned silky. Then pray your loyalty to her doesn't doom us all, young alpha. Lyra stood on the castle balcony, staring at the storm clouds gathering over the forest. Lightning traced ghostly veins across the sky. She could feel Damien's anger burning through the bond, though he tried to hide it. She clutched the railing, knuckles white. They know, a soft voice answered from behind her. Then time is shorter than we hoped. The seer stepped from the shadows, her eyes pale, her hair silver in the moonlight. She moved like mist, soundless. Lyra turned. You again? Why do you keep following me? I follow the thread of the moon's choosing, the seer murmured. And it winds tightly around you. Lyra's pulse quickened. You said I was the Luna's heir. But what does that mean? What am I? The seer tilted her head, studying her as thunder rolled overhead. You're not merely her heir, child. You are her vessel, Lyra blinked. Her what? The last Luna's spirit sleeps in your blood. When she died, her essence scattered through the moon's light. Only one soul was strong enough to anchor it again. The seer's gaze softened. You? Lyra stepped back, shaking her head. That's impossible. I'm not... You've already proven it, the seer interrupted. The power answers you. The wolves' minds bend when you call. Even their alpha cannot silence the bond. You are what they fear and what they need. The words hit like a strike. And Damien? Lyra whispered. What am I to him? The seer's lips curved faintly. The one who will either crown him or destroy him. Down in the hall, Damien dismissed the council with icy calm. The moment the last alpha left, his restraint cracked. He slammed his hand against the table, splintering wood. The air shimmered with suppressed fury. She was in danger now. He had seen it in Corvin's eyes. The council would not wait long. When he reached the balcony, Lyra was still there, the storm painting her hair silver. You shouldn't be out here, he said. Voice sharp, she turned, unflinching. And you shouldn't lie to them. His jaw flexed. You were listening. I didn't need to. The bond told me. He cursed softly under his breath. Then you know what they plan. Lyra nodded. They'll come for me. I can feel it. He stepped closer, the storm's wind tugging at his cloak. They'll have to go through me first. She stared at him. This man who had once been her tormentor, now her shield. You can't fight them all, Damien. His eyes darkened. Watch me. For a heartbeat, neither spoke. The storm's first drops began to fall. Cold and clean. Lyra reached out, touching the mark glowing faintly beneath his shirt. You can't protect me from fate. I can damn well try. The words came out like a vow, low and rough. Lightning lit the sky behind them, throwing their faces into pale golden shadow. She whispered, The seer told me what I am. And what's that? Something that can break you. He met her gaze without hesitation. Then let it. The bond thrummed hard between them, as if even the moon paused to listen. Lyra searched his face, torn between fear and need. You don't understand what's inside me, Damien. It's not just power, it's her. The last Luna, she's awake now. He took her hand, pressing it against his heart. Then tell her the alpha she's tied to doesn't kneel to ghosts. Her breath hitched. You defy the goddess herself? For you? His voice was almost a growl. Always, the storm broke. Rain poured down, soaking them both as the castle trembled with thunder. Lyra looked up at him through the downpour, moonlight gleaming in her eyes. Then we'll fall together. He pulled her closer, the world dissolving into silver rain and breathless heat. The bond burned brighter, sealing them in defiance of every law written in blood. Far below, unseen in the shadows of the forest, a figure watched, eyes like coals, smile thin as a blade. Corvin whispered to the wind, "Let them love. It will make their ruin all the sweeter." Chapter 9. The Betrayal at Blackridge. The storm had not yet passed. It brooded over Blackridge Castle, thunder muttering like an old god nursing vengeance. The air was heavy with the scent of wet stone and steel. Lyra paced the grand corridor outside the war chamber, her cloak clinging to her damp skin. Her pulse was a steady drumbeat of unease. The bond between her and Damien burned faintly, restless. She could sense his agitation, like a shadow pressing at the edge of her mind. The council had left hours ago, but peace had not returned with their departure. Something was wrong. Too quiet, her wolf whispered from the depths of her soul. Too still. She turned sharply as footsteps echoed down the hall. It was Garrick, Damien's beta, broad and silver-haired, a man she had once feared as much as his alpha. His face was grave. "Where is he?" she asked. "In the war room," Garrick replied. "He's calling the guards back from the borders." Her brow furrowed. "That's madness. The council's plotting and he's weakening the defenses." Garrick's expression flickered. "He believes a threat lies within, not outside." Lyra froze. "Within?" Before she could ask more, a crash echoed from the chamber beyond. Inside, Damien stood before the great oak table, breathing hard, shards of a shattered goblet glittering near his boots. His knuckles bled where he had struck the wall. "They've already moved," he growled. "Scouts found 2 of our border patrols slaughtered near the Vale." Lyra entered quietly, the torches painting her face gold and shadow. "The council?" Damien nodded, eyes cold. "Corvin sent his warriors. It's a message. He wants me to submit or watch everything burn." "Then we don't wait," she said firmly. "We strike first." He looked at her, really looked at her. The once wolfless girl now spoke with the confidence of a born alpha. "You sound like me," he murmured. "Maybe I finally understand you." For a heartbeat, silence hung between them. The bond pulsed, gentle and dangerous. Then a sharp knock shattered the stillness. "Enter," Damien barked. The door swung open. Garrick stepped inside, bowing slightly. "The armory is ready. The men await your command," Damien nodded. "Good. Prepare the Luna's guard as well." "Already done," Garrick interrupted. His voice was steady. Too steady. Lyra's wolf bristled inside her. Something in the beta's scent had changed, too calm, too cold. Her hand drifted instinctively toward the dagger at her belt. Damien didn't notice. He turned back to the table. "Good. We ride at dawn." A sudden sharp pain cut through Lyra's mark. She gasped, stumbling forward. Damien spun around instantly. "Lyra?" Her vision blurred. The bond seared like molten fire. Someone was tampering with it, twisting the connection between them. She fell to her knees, clutching her chest. Garrick's expression hardened. "I'm sorry, Alpha." Damien's eyes snapped to him. "What did you—" Before he could finish, Garrick raised his hand. A silver sigil glowed across his palm, the same mark used by the council to bind werewolves. "Magic older than bloodlines. You?" Damien roared. "You betrayed me?" "I swore my loyalty to the Pax, not to your curse," Garrick spat. "You've bound yourself to a Luna's vessel. Do you know what that means? When her power awakens fully, she won't stop at leading wolves. She'll control them. All of them. Even you." Damien lunged, but the sigil flared bright. A pulse of energy slammed him backward into the wall. Lyra screamed, forcing herself upright as the spell constricted around her chest. The mark on her collarbone blazed violently, pushing against the binding magic. The air crackled. The torches flickered. "Damien," she cried, reaching toward him. He struggled to his feet, veins glowing faintly silver from the enchantment. "Let her go, Garrick." The beta's eyes were full of sorrow. "I can't. Corvin's men are already inside the castle. If she stays, she dies or worse. The council will burn everything to find her. I'll burn them first. Damien roared, but the spell tightened again, forcing him to his knees. Lyra's vision darkened at the edges. The power inside her stirred, wild, ancient, furious. Her fingers curled and the air shimmered with silver threads. "Stop," she whispered. But her voice was no longer just her own. A second tone echoed beneath it, deeper, older. The Luna's spirit stirring within. The floor cracked beneath her feet. Wind whipped through the chamber, flinging papers and shattered glass. Garrick stumbled back, eyes wide. "Moon preserve us." Lyra's eyes glowed like twin stars. The silver threads lashed out, wrapping around the glowing sigil on Garrick's palm. "Betrayal for loyalty," her dual voice murmured, "and loyalty rewarded in death, Lyra." Damien forced himself upright, straining against the magic. "No, you'll lose yourself." But she couldn't stop. The Luna's fury coursed through her veins. Light poured from her skin, the storm outside roaring in answer. Garrick cried out as the sigil burned away, searing his flesh. He fell to his knees, gasping, but not before whispering a final warning. "They're here." The doors burst open. Dozens of armored wolves stormed in. Council warriors, cloaked in silver sigils that glowed like fireflies in the dark. Their blades gleamed, forged for one purpose: to kill gods and heirs alike. Damien ripped free of the fading spell with a roar that shook the room. He shifted mid-stride, his wolf erupting in a surge of black fur and fury. "Get behind me," he growled, voice distorted by his transformation. Lyra lifted her hand. The mark pulsed again, light weaving into a shield that shimmered like moonlight. Arrows struck it and shattered. The battle ignited. Steel clashed against fang. Wolves lunged, snarled, fell. The air filled with smoke, blood, and magic. Lyra fought beside Damien, her movements graceful and feral all at once. Every time her power flared, the enemy faltered. For a moment it seemed they might actually hold. Until the blast came. A single arrow, carved from pure obsidian, struck the shield and shattered it like glass. Lyra was thrown backward, crashing against the wall. Her vision dimmed, the bond screaming in pain. Damien's roar shook the hall. He tore through 3 warriors in seconds, but when he reached her, she was already fading. "Stay with me," he shouted, catching her face in his bloodied hands. Her voice was barely a whisper. "They're too strong. Don't you dare say that." Another explosion rocked the castle. The ceiling cracked. Debris rained down. Lyra's hand lifted weakly to his chest, her mark glowing faintly. "If they take me, the Luna's spirit dies with me. Then I'll die first." Tears mingled with rain and blood. She smiled faintly. "You always were stubborn." The bond pulsed one last time. Then something tore through it. Damien's scream echoed through the storm as a blast of silver light engulfed the chamber, hurling him backward into darkness. When he opened his eyes again, the hall was in ruins. The council warriors were gone. So was she. Only her cloak remained, torn, blood-stained, and still warm. Chapter 10. The Moon's Wrath. The storm came without warning. Winds howled through the forest, tearing branches from ancient oaks and whipping the air with feral cries. The moon was veiled behind churning clouds, yet its pull was undeniable, heavy, trembling, alive. Somewhere beneath that silver fury, Lyra screamed. Her body arched on the forest floor, light searing through her veins like molten silver. The mark of the moon burned at her throat, the same mark the council had sworn would never appear on a wolfless girl. But it had, and it was changing her. Her fingernails cracked, then lengthened into talons that gleamed like obsidian. Her eyes, once soft brown, glowed with the pale luminescence of moonlight. She could feel every heartbeat of the forest, every whisper of pain from the creatures hiding in terror. And somewhere deeper, beyond the chaos, she felt him. Damien. His name was not a sound anymore. It was a pulse, a heartbeat that thudded through her own. The bond between them twisted and flared, raw and burning, until it felt like their souls were tearing each other apart. Miles away, Damien staggered against a tree, gasping as if his chest had been ripped open. His beta, Ronan, rushed toward him, eyes wide. "Alpha, what's happening? Your aura, it's..." Damien snarled, his voice breaking. "She's in pain." He fell to one knee, gripping the soil until his claws shredded it. Sparks of silver bled from his palms, flickering like dying stars. The pack around him howled in confusion, their link to him unstable, disrupted by something greater, something divine. Lyra, he rasped, looking toward the forest. She's losing control. Ronan hesitated. You can't go after her, not now. The Council's forces are already. Damien's golden eyes snapped up, filled with a fury that silenced him. If she dies, every Alpha will wish they hadn't been born. The forest trembled as Damien broke through the line of trees, his aura slamming outward like a shockwave. Every step was agony, the bond pulling tighter, slicing through him as if punishing his hesitation. The air was thick with the scent of storm and blood. He found her near the lake, kneeling in the mud, her hair whipping wildly around her glowing face. Lightning crackled through the water as if answering her rage. Lyra, he called softly, the sound trembling. Her head snapped up, her eyes glowed. Not human, not wolf. Something older. Something sacred. Stay back. Her voice wasn't her own. It was layered, echoing. The sound of many voices, many souls. I can't control it. Damien took a step forward. You are control. You're my Luna. You were born for this power. She shook her head violently, tears cutting silver paths down her cheeks. No, Damien. It's not power. It's destruction. It's what they made me. A sudden flash of memory hit her. The Council's chamber, the seer's trembling words, the experiments they'd whispered about. A child born under the blood moon will carry both salvation and ruin. And she was that child. Damien moved closer despite the storm raging around them. The energy emanating from her made his fur stand on end, yet he didn't waver. You think they made you, Lyra? His voice was rough, raw. No, you defied them. That's why they fear you. Her lips trembled. Then why do you look at me like you're afraid too? The question cut through him like a blade. He closed the distance, reaching for her face. The air hissed between them as his hand brushed her skin, a jolt of moonfire sparking up his arm. He winced but didn't pull away. I'm not afraid of you, he whispered. I'm afraid of losing you. Something in her broke. The storm howled louder, but her body sagged forward, falling into his arms. The glow dimmed slightly, her breathing ragged. Damien held her against his chest, his jaw tight as if he could hold her together by sheer force of will. Damien, she whispered, voice faint. If I lose myself, promise me you'll end it. He froze. Don't ask me that. Promise me. Her fingers clutched his shirt weakly. If I turn into what they wanted me to be, kill me. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the agony in his eyes. He couldn't answer, because he couldn't lie to her, and he couldn't promise that either. Suddenly, the trees around them shuddered. Figures emerged, black cloaks, silver masks, the Council's enforcers. Damien turned, baring his teeth, his wolf surging. Get behind me. But Lyra stood, swaying slightly, her mark glowing brighter. The lead enforcer stepped forward, his voice cold. So it's true. The wolfless girl carries the moon's curse. Kill her, before she becomes what the prophecy foretold. Lyra's eyes lifted, calm, eerie, and full of pain. You already made me that, she said quietly. Then she raised her hand. The storm answered. Winds tore through the clearing, lightning spearing the earth, water rising in violent arcs from the lake. The enforcers screamed as the energy consumed them. Bodies flung into the darkness, their silver masks melting in the air. Damien tried to reach her, shouting her name, but the power repelled him like a living wall. She turned toward him, glowing brighter and brighter, her face wet with tears. Forgive me. The world went white. A blinding flash swallowed everything, the forest, the lake, even the moon itself. And when the light faded, she was gone. Only silence remained, broken by Damien's ragged, broken howl echoing through the storm. Chapter 11. Ashes of the bond, the world had gone silent. No birds, no wind, Not even the forest dared to breathe. For 3 nights, Damien had searched through the ruins of the lake. The water still shimmered faintly with traces of moonfire, glowing like the heartbeat of a dying god. But she was gone. Lyra, his Luna, his curse, had vanished into light. He dropped to his knees, mud streaking his hands, and pressed his palms against the earth as though he could will her spirit to answer. The bond still flickered, weak, fractured, but alive. It was both comfort and torture. Lyra, he whispered into the cold air, if you can hear me, come back. Only the echo of his own voice returned. Back at Black Ridge Keep, the pack was unraveling. The once steady rhythm of the howls was fractured by uncertainty. Wolves fought in the training fields, their tempers shortened by the echo of their alpha's grief. Damien had locked himself inside the council hall, refusing food, refusing rest. Ronan stood at the heavy doors, fists clenched. He's not thinking straight, he muttered. The bond's poisoning him. If this continues, the pack link will collapse. Across from him, Lyra, the healer, shook her head. It's not poison. It's love twisted by loss. You can't sever a mate bond, it must fade, or it drives the alpha insane. Ronan's jaw tightened. Then we all burn with him. Inside, Damien stared at the map spread across the war table, though he saw none of it. Candlelight trembled over his face, throwing deep shadows under his eyes. He hadn't shifted since the night she vanished. The beast inside him slept restlessly, pacing, howling, begging to run until it found her. Footsteps entered quietly. Ronan, you should rest, Alpha. I can't. Damien's voice was a rasp. She's still out there. I can feel her. Or maybe that's the bond dying. The words were soft, but they hit like a blade. Damien's head snapped up, gold eyes glowing faintly. Watch your tongue, Ronan didn't flinch. The council's moving, Damien. They're using her disappearance to call for your removal. They claim you've lost control. If you don't lead, someone else will. Damien's hand closed around the edge of the table until the wood cracked. Let them come. I'll tear out their throats. Then what? Ronan demanded. What if she is alive? You think she'd want to come back to find you drenched in blood? The question hung in the air, sharp and merciless. For a moment, Damien's anger faltered. His shoulders slumped and he turned away. She wouldn't want that, he said quietly. But I don't know how to stop. That night, he dreamed of her. She stood in the moonlight, hair drifting like dark silk. Her eyes no longer brown, but pure silver. Damien, she said softly. He reached for her, but she stepped back, the distance between them widening into a gulf of light. You couldn't save me, she whispered, but you can still save them. He woke with a gasp, drenched in sweat. The bond pulsed weakly, like a heartbeat calling from beyond. It wasn't gone. Not yet. By dawn, the rebellion began. The East Wing Alphas gathered outside the keep, demanding audience. They spoke of weakness, of broken leadership. An Alpha who mourns a ghost cannot protect us, one snarled. We will not bow to grief. Damien descended the steps, cloak trailing like a shadow. The crowd went silent as his aura unfurled. Sharp, cold, suffocating. You question my rule, he said quietly. Because you think the Luna is gone. His gaze swept over them, and many lowered their heads. But the bond still breathes, and as long as it does, she lives. You will not speak of her as dead. The boldest among them stepped forward. And if she doesn't return? Damien's eyes burned gold. Then every wolf under my command will help me bring her back, or they will die trying. His power surged outward, forcing the challengers to their knees. The air vibrated with dominance, raw, terrifying. But beneath the power was something else. Grief, barely contained. Later, when the courtyard emptied, Damien stood alone beneath the fading moon. The mark on his wrist, hers, had begun to dull. Every night it grew fainter, and he could almost feel the bond slipping through his fingers. He turned toward the forest. A single breeze brushed past, carrying the faint scent of rain. And lavender, his chest tightened. Lyra's scent, impossible. Show yourself, he growled. Nothing answered but the wind, until a faint shimmer appeared between the trees, like moonlight reflected on glass. A figure flickered within it, small, familiar. Her voice whispered faintly, carried by the air. Damien, don't let them find me. He froze. Lyra? The light dimmed. The council hunts the heart of the bond. They'll come for you next. Where are you? He demanded. I'll find you. But the shimmer faded, leaving only silence. Ronan found him moments later, standing motionless. Alpha, what happened? She's alive, Damien said, eyes burning with renewed purpose. She reached out through the bond. Ronan hesitated. If that's true, they'll try to use her against you. Let them try. Damien's voice was calm, deadly. They wanted to break the Wolfless girl. Instead, they created a queen. He looked toward the horizon where the dawn met the forest edge. For the first time since that night, a spark of hope stirred behind the grief. If she's fighting to survive, he murmured, then so will I. Chapter 12. Queen of Shadows. The night was too still. Even the stars seemed to hold their breath above the ruined forest. Damien rode alone through the valley, his wolf pacing beneath his skin, restless and aching. The council's warbands had vanished days ago, but their stench lingered. Blood, ash, magic burned black. He stopped at the ridge where the forest met the lake, the place where Lyra had disappeared. The water shimmered faintly under the moonlight, calm now as though the storm had never existed. But he knew better. The bond had pulsed again last night, stronger, sharper, a cry not of pain but of summoning. She's calling to me, he whispered, and the moment he said it, the moon flared. A silver mist began to rise from the water, curling upward like living smoke. The air thickened, humming with power. Then slowly, she stepped from the mist. Lyra. Her gown was woven of shadow and starlight, her hair trailing in a dark, silken wave. The mark of the moon glowed faintly on her throat, pulsing in rhythm with the lake's reflection. Her eyes, once brown then silver, now shimmered with both. Mortal and divine, Damien's breath caught. Lyra. She smiled faintly, though sorrow lingered at the corners of her lips. You came. I never stopped. He took a step closer, afraid she'd vanish again. I thought I lost you. You did? Her voice was soft, ethereal. For a time he froze. The air around her rippled with otherworldly energy. The faint scent of lavender still clung to her, but now beneath it was something wild, ancient. What happened to you? He asked, voice low. Lyra looked toward the moon, eyes distant. The light didn't kill me. It changed me. The bond, our bond, called the old magic to protect me. I became something they can't name. The council? Gone, she said simply. The moon judged them. Damien took another step, his chest tight. And now what? You rule what's left of the night? She looked back at him then, eyes glimmering like liquid stars. I didn't ask for power, Damien. I only wanted peace. But peace doesn't come to people like us. He reached out, his hand trembling. Then we make it, together. Lyra hesitated. The bond pulsed again, stronger than ever, but laced with warning. Her mark glowed brighter, the air between them crackling. You shouldn't touch me, she whispered. The moon's fire still burns in me. It can destroy what it loves. He smiled faintly, stepping closer anyway. Then let it burn. Their hands met, the forest shuddered. The lake erupted in light. For an instant, time stopped. Their souls colliding, the bond sealing anew, deeper than before. The pain was exquisite. The love, terrifying. When the light faded, they stood locked together, trembling. Lyra looked up at him, tears glistening in her eyes. They'll never accept us. Then let them kneel, Damien murmured. We were never meant to be accepted. We were meant to be remembered. The days that followed were strange and heavy with whispers. The council was gone, consumed by the same force that had tried to destroy her. The packs that remained bent the knee to Damien, not out of loyalty but out of awe. They called Lyra the moon's shadow, a living bridge between mortal and divine. Some said her eyes could see the truth of a man's soul. Others swore her voice could calm even the most feral wolf. But among the pack, no one spoke of her as the Wolfless girl anymore. At night, she walked the ramparts of the keep, gazing at the horizon where the stars touched the forest. Damien would find her there, always silent, always watching. You don't sleep, he said once, leaning against the stone beside her. I can't, she replied softly. When I close my eyes, I hear them, the voices of the ones the moon took. The ones who betrayed, the ones who begged. He touched her shoulder gently. Does it hurt? Only when I remember what it cost. He said nothing because he knew. The light that had saved her had burned a part of her humanity away. She was no longer just his mate. She was something sacred and untouchable. Yet when she turned to him, the warmth in her eyes was still the same. "Do you regret it?" she asked quietly. "Never." He smiled faintly. "The world can call you goddess, curse queen, it doesn't matter. You're mine." Lyra laughed softly, the sound fragile but real. "And you, my foolish alpha, still think you can claim the moon?" He leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. "Only the part that beats for me." That night the wind carried the sound of distant howls across the mountains. Wolves from other packs, those who had once mocked the Wolfless girl, now called her name with reverence. Lyra, the Luna reborn. She stood at the balcony's edge, the moonlight painting her in silver fire. "I feel them," she whispered. "Every heart, every howl. The world has changed, Damien. The old power is waking." He stepped behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Then we face it together." She leaned back into him, eyes closing. "Together," the wind whispered through the forest below, carrying with it the faint scent of rain and new beginnings. Above them, the moon burned brighter than it had in centuries, and though peace was fragile, and shadows lingered beyond the horizon, the bond between them, scarred, sacred, unbreakable, glowed like a promise in the dark. Even the moon bows to the hearts that defy fate.